These ain't glorified prison or gang stories, man. These is lived experiences. Welcome to the Swang Low Podcast Show, Do Rock Creep, a special edition. Now, look, I have the opportunity and the pleasure of being able to go back in time to the year of 1991, a year where I just so happened to have been the age of 18 years old on my way to prison for the very first time. You know what I mean? Now I get to go back all the way to 1991 and interview the younger me. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, it's an absolute pleasure to have this opportunity to do this, especially be able to do it on my platform as a special edition to my roundtable family and to those abroad. And hopefully, those abroad that haven't had the opportunity to join the Swang Low Podcast Roundtable family, man, take this opportunity to do so right now. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. You know what I mean? And tap in if you feel the need to. You know what I'm saying? Because throughout this interview, I'm almost positive that it's going to bring on questions, because I believe that this younger version of myself is going to answer everything openly and honestly, you know what I mean, as he's going through whatever he's going through at that time. Who knows how he's going to answer these questions? You know what I'm saying? So, hey, welcome to the roundtable, man. We finna get into this thing. Let's go. All right, now I had some questions, you know what I'm saying, that I had prepared for this interview. Here they go right here, by the way. You know what I'm saying? And I'll probably get to a couple of these questions, you know what I'm saying, throughout the course of this interview. But for the most part, I wanted to see if I can freestyle it, you know what I'm saying? And just to keep everything as organic as I possibly can. I believe that the Roundtable family deserve that as well as those abroad, that tap into this, you know what I mean? So yeah, man, I'm gonna try to, go off the brain, and try to come with the most profound questions that I can for this younger version of myself, young Creep Loke. You feel me? So come on, let's go ahead and get into this thing. Do Rock Creep. Well, the younger version of me back then was Creep Loke. You know what I'm saying? Hey, welcome to the Swang Low Podcast Show, man. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. How do you feel being able to get interviewed by an older version of yourself from the future? You know what I'm saying? That's actually having the opportunity to reach back in time and present you on this platform, the Swang Low platform that you actually created in your elder age. How you feel being able to, present yourself as you are in 1991? How do I feel about getting interviewed by my future self? It's mind blowing, man. Thank you for having me. I'm still like trying to wrap my head around, how all this came together. You know what I mean? But you know, regardless of that, thank you for having me, man. It's an absolute pleasure. It's a trip, seeing an older version of me from the future, digging back to the year that I'm currently in, 1991, while I'm in prison, being able to deliver interview like that, man, it's crazy. It's deep. You know what I'm saying? But I'm humbled at being able to have this platform, to be able to tell my story, you know what I'm saying, and give the public some insight, on what my mentality is right now in 1991. You know what I'm saying? So salute to the Swang Low platform for having me. Okay, it's my understanding that you're at the age of 18 right now and you're incarcerated and this is your first time going to prison, having this experience. Let us know, what you're thinking and what you're feeling as you're taking that bus ride. Put us in the moment of you being in the Los Angeles County Jail and actually catching the chain to go to prison for the first time. You ain't never experienced none of this. Walk us through what you're feeling at that time, what you're seeing around you. You know what I mean? And just the whole experience of actually going through all that and getting on that prison bus and taking that long ride to the prison that you would end up at for the very first time. Yeah, man. I'm 18 years old. You know, um, in the Los Angeles County Jail, 1991. You hear a million different stories about the Los Angeles County Jail. You know what I mean? A lot of stuff that was going on in there at that time. You got to remember this is 1991. Gang banging was at its height. It was all out banging. You know what I'm saying? You was gonna be a full fledged Crip, or a full fledged nothing. Point blank period. And I believe like during them years was like gladiator years. You know what I'm saying? And I came in during the time period, where, it was all that and some, you know what I mean? But 1991, being in the LA County Jail around a whole bunch of people that I've never been around before from all walks of life. You got gangbangers from everywhere. See, I focused on the gangbangers because I was a young gangbanger. Well, am a young gangbanger. You know what I'm saying? And you adapt to the environment. You become the environment. So that environment, you know, shaped me, molded me into what I ended up becoming. You feel me? Because hey, you hear all the different stories about, going through the LA County jail, and if you're able to survive that, you can survive anywhere. And in all honesty, I believe like that was definitely the gladiator school for, you know what I'm saying, the training of a young Crip, that was, at that time, I'm at this time, I'm 18. You know what I mean? So yeah, man. I'm looking around me. I'm seeing all these different things going on. Dudes getting beat up, dudes getting jumped. All this. This is just the LA County Jail. I'm seeing everything firsthand while I'm waiting to catch the chain. Bam. So, I ended up catching the chain, man, and that going through that is a process within itself. There's a number of things you got to do before you actually get on the bus. Just leaving the county jail and transferring over from the LA County Jail, going to the reception center, prison, is a trip within itself. You know what I'm saying? That whole process. But I remember like standing in the line, sitting in the tank, standing in line, waiting to get chained up. They chain your hands, they chain your legs. You know what I mean? Basically shackled. You chained to another man. 9 times out of 10, that man that you chained to gonna be ended up falling asleep on you on the bus because y'all chained side by side and you sitting in these hard plastic seats. You know what I mean? And I remember like standing there wondering like what's next? I've never been through this before. I'm actually going to prison. I'm actually finna get a prison number. And just the number of things just running through my mind, man. And as I stood there, then I started thinking about the people that went before me. See, this is something that the G's don't tell you. This process, the OGs you're not afforded the opportunity to sit down with a lot of the G's because a lot of them dudes be in and out of prison. They was always in and out of prison. So I never had the opportunity to sit down with them and talk to them and pick their brain about what this process, of standing in that line, wondering like what was the next man thinking when this was his first time of going through this. I didn't know what to expect. You know what I'm saying? So as I stood there, just a million things going through my mind. Then you got the police talking their stuff, and then you actually finally make it on the bus, and then you taking that long ride. They give you bag lunches, with dry meat, bread, uh, a mustard pack, and probably a cookie. You know what I'm saying? And that's what they give you to eat, man. And if you got to use the bathroom, bam, you got to make your way to the back of the Grey Goose state bus where the police is sitting back there in the cage. with different guns. So you got to go to the bathroom with the police sitting right here, looking directly in the bathroom at you. You know what I'm saying? But I just remember taking all that in, man, for the first time and just tripping on the ride was long. I'm looking at people going by wishing I was free. You know what I'm saying? As you taking that ride, you looking out the window, you on a freeway, so people is coming and going. And you just start having thoughts of your freedom, man. And you know, and at the same time, like what's finna come of this? I'm going to a prison that I've never been to. I'm young. You know what I'm saying? Like what's finna become of this? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man. It was a mind trip. You know what I'm saying? It really was. And then actually making it to the reception center, in which I ended up in Tehachapi. You know what I'm saying? And where I got my prison number, and I remember sitting in these cages. They got like three big black cages that probably fit about 30 to 50 inmates at one time in each cage. You know what I'm saying? And they fill them cages up, and you sit inside them cages, and they call people out one by one. That's when you go take your picture for your prison ID. You know what I'm saying? And if you've never been to prison before, then this is where you first get your prison number and your ID right here. And I went through to Tehachapi State Prison reception, and that's where I got my prison number. You know what I'm saying? In the year of 1992, coming from the Los Angeles County Jail, the beginning of 1992. So bam, I remember sitting in the cage, and I was in there with my big homeboy Pierre. Now Pierre had already been to prison, so he already had a prison number. They just needed to update his ID. So I remember sitting there with him, man, talking to him about it, and he just telling me what to expect, what this process was while we sitting in the cage, and what was going to come about me taking my picture and getting my prison number. You know what I'm saying? And it was a number of us that had got our prison number at this time. You know what I'm saying? And I just remember like tripping, actually being in the prison and looking around, seeing the cells and just seeing all these different COs, with stern looks on their face, man, and just tripping out. Like this is my first rodeo, to adult lockup. Okay, as you're entering into prison, right? You said Tehachapi State Prison was the first stop for you. That was the reception center. Okay. Now this is your first time going through this, and you just detailed out to us. You know what I'm saying? You know, deeply. You know what I'm saying? What you was feeling and what you was seeing and all that. Like that's incredible, man. That's incredible for you to be that age and be able to actually account everything, as it was happening in real time. And like that's incredible. You know what I'm saying? But now you're actually in prison. During this time in this year, did you feel like you had to be more of a standout and go above and beyond? Like you had something to prove. You know what I mean, to the people that was with you in that environment. You know what I mean? Did you feel like you had to be the one that was always stepping up? You know what I'm saying, to do whatever was called upon, for the young riders to do at that time. I mean, yeah, man. I mean, of course, I felt like I had to go above and beyond. Being that I was young, being that I was fresh in prison. You know, I really had something to prove as a gang member, especially being from where I'm from. You know what I mean? You get in prison and you see all these dudes from different gangs. A lot of times, it'd be six, seven, eight dudes all from the same gang on the same yard. And in my case, I didn't have it like that. It'd be probably one or two of my homies, on the yard, if that. And I just felt like, being that I was fresh in and young, I definitely had something to prove to the people that was around me, in order for them to embrace me, you know, into the fold. You know what I mean? Of being a real legitimate Crip, a real legitimate Keyway. You know what I'm saying? And being young and having the mentality that I did at that time, I didn't know much about prison, but I did know how to fight. I did know how to ride. I did know how to never mark the game. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, yeah, of course I felt like, anybody that's young like that and coming into a prison system is definitely gonna feel like they got to prove themselves. You know what I mean? And when it came time to do that, when it was time to put some work in and whatnot, I was never told to go do this or do that. I was always the one that was stepping up, volunteering to go do this. I was never ever sent on no mission. I've never been sent on a mission by no other man. Anything that I involved myself in prison, you know what I mean? I inducted myself in the position to go. You know what I mean? Because I definitely wanted to have the reputation of, without question, he's going to get cracking. If things get funky, he's going to get cracking. And that's what I eventually, set out to do. You know what I mean? And that was just me being young and having the mentality, that I got. So of course I felt like I had to prove myself. It was a whole lot of OGs that was around me that had life. You know what I'm saying? And the OGs that was around me that had life, you didn't really see them stepping out like that, engaging into too many different political activities. They handle business behind the scenes. While the young dudes, we felt like we had to be front and center on everything. So we involved ourselves in a little bit of everything. We didn't shy away from no funk, whether we was beefing with the Bloods, the Bay Areas, the Mexicans, the whites, whoever, it didn't even matter. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what we was on. You know what I mean? And we was front and center with it. So of course I felt like I had something to prove. You know what I'm saying? And being around all the OGs that had the life sentences and stuff, um, definitely had something to prove to them. These dudes been down for years. And here it is. I'm just coming into the prison system, you know what I mean? And seeing, the structure of it, you know what I mean? And yeah, I definitely felt like I had something to prove to people. And I definitely went on missions, went on a whole lot of missions, bust a whole lot of heads, ended up catching a whole lot of cases, man. You know what I'm saying? And I think, it's pretty much gonna be like that with me, until I'm released. They only gave me four and a half years. You know what I'm saying? They only gave me 4.5 years, and I'm around a whole bunch of dudes that got life sentences that's been down a number of years. I had to become the environment. The environment called upon all the young dudes to stay ready and get active and be with all activities. And that's what I became. I became that environment. You know what I'm saying? Case after case. I never shied away from no funk, no violence, none of that. And that ain't me putting any extras on it or none of that. That's just what I am. Point blank, period. Okay, so let me ask you this, man. While in there, you know what I'm saying? Now you've been in for you got like a year and a half in. You know what I mean? And you've been through all those things that you just described to us. You know what I mean? How often did you think about going home? How often did that cross your mind in the midst of you doing all those crazy things and going on all those missions? Because you felt, that was something that you know you needed to do. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't something that was forced upon you. You made the decisions to do all these things, right? As you described to us, right? Which is amazing within itself. It really is. But my thing is, after going through all that stuff, how often did you think about going home? Did it ever cross your mind that while you was doing all those crazy things, going on one of those missions could have led to somebody, losing their life? which would have sent you back to court fighting a fresh new case and possibly getting a life sentence behind that person losing their life in prison, behind you going on one of those missions. Did it ever cross your mind on like, man, at some point I got to stand down because I actually do I only got a couple of years? You know what I'm saying? You said you were seeing the lifers around you, that the people that the older dudes that actually had life like functioning like completely different. Like they wasn't really like fast and eager to go like the young dudes that was there amongst you, that you said that was there with you. So it's just I know the viewers and everybody will be questioning, like, you know what I mean? Did this dude ever think about going home, his release date, or any of that? Like, how often did this cross your mind, especially while, catching those cases that you was catching? Hey man, I'm gonna be real with you, man. You don't allow your release date to dictate how you're gonna function in prison. When you got time to do, like I said, you become the environment. Of course, I thought about my release date and going home and you know what I'm saying, all that, but I didn't allow that to dictate how I function in prison because I understood that I had time to do, and that release date ain't guaranteed. You know what I mean? Anything could have happened, in the course of me doing the 4 years that I'm doing. Somebody could have came out, you know what I'm saying, stabbed me in the neck, killed me, and bam, that would be the end, But thankfully, by the blessings of God, that didn't happen. Like they say, man, you're not free until you're walking back through them gates. You know what I mean? So your release date ain't guaranteed to you. So you can't function off of having a release date. And secondly, when you go to put in some work, you don't think that you're gonna go and with the intentions on unaliving somebody. You know what I'm saying? You go with the intentions on, if you got to put down a demo, you put down the demo, you get it done, you get it out the way, and that's that. Whatever becomes of it, becomes of it. But you don't go into it with the intentions on taking another person's life. Thankfully, that hasn't happened to me. You know what I'm saying? And all the cases that I picked up, all the missions that I went on, I'm thankful that somebody didn't lose their life. In many cases that I've been involved in, that definitely could have happened. Now, had that happened to me, then yeah, that would have been a whole completely, you know, change of the game. You know what I'm saying? Point blank period. That would have changed everything. But of course, you think about going home. I thought about going home every day, and that was the problem. I was stressed out over that. And you know, you only had 4.5 years to do. But to a young minded person such as myself, that was a long time. I had never, you got to remember, I'm 19 years old. Was just in juvenile camp a year and a half ago. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, that in comparisons to this, now I done graduated from the juvenile stuff over to adult stuff where people were actually losing their life. People were actually getting stabbed. I see it every day, all day, every day. Dudes getting knocked out on the yard, like the different gang riots, and you know what I'm saying? I see this all day, every day. But of course, you think about going home, but at the same time, you got to survive that environment that you got to become. And I became that environment. I'm a young gang member. I came in young gang banging, and while I'm in here young, I'm gang banging. And that's just what it is. You know what I'm saying? But of course, I thought about going home, but I did not allow my release date to dictate how I functioned in prison because I had to become that environment, and the environment was dog eat dog, point blank, period. Okay, okay. So you got 4 years and 6 months to do, right? And at this stage now, of this interview, I think you said you've been in 2 years, so that leaves you with like some months left. You know what I'm saying? Now, my question to you is, being that you got that much time left and you got that much time put in already, do you see yourself staying out once released back into society? Do you see yourself staying out long, or Do you ever think about the possibilities of making your way back to prison somehow, some way, getting caught up and you know what I'm saying? Because it's different ways, if especially if you don't have a plan. You know what I mean? Now, I pretty much know how things is going to turn out for you, right? But I think the most interesting question to you from me, and I'm pretty sure that the everybody that's attending the round table would agree, that and we all want to hear this. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you see yourself coming back to prison? How do you plan on making sure that that don't happen? That you don't get caught up in nothing once you get out. You know what I'm saying? Being that you still young and you an active game member, because I can tell you, man, if you make the right decision, if you start, if you open your eyes and start seeing everything for what it is and you start making better decisions, you can live and exist out there. I can promise you that. I can tell you that, but I can't persuade your way of thinking, you know, being that I'm digging back to the past. I'm your future. I'm what you're eventually gonna become if you don't make the right decisions. You got the opportunity now. You know what I'm saying? But I can't tell you how that's gonna play out, although I know how it's gonna play out. But I want to know, what your perspective is. Do you have long term goals on staying free, or do you see prison being in, your existence again? Damn, OGA, them some good questions, man. Those are some good questions. My long-term goal on freedom is definitely, to stay free as long as I possibly can. But you gotta remember, man, it's a lot going on the streets. You know what I mean? I stay connected to my homeboys that's out there. You know what I mean? And I'm definitely paroling back out there. But the plan is definitely, man, to get out, try to get a job, you know what I'm saying, and try to move off to a better spot, that I ain't got to constantly be looking over my shoulder and placing myself in that hostile environment where, eventually, it's gonna get funky and I'm gonna have to perform, but that's where I'm going back to. You asked, do I see the possibility of me returning to prison? The possibility of anything is possible, right? I mean, I don't want to come back. Yeah, I've been down 2 years. You know what I'm saying? I'm at the almost at the ending of this sentence. I got about probably 8 to 9 more months to do. I would be getting out sooner than that, but like I told you, I caught a lot of time, caught a lot of cases. You know what I'm saying? And the time that they added on to me, it just stacked up. I was supposed to have been got out. You know what I'm saying? However, it is what it is, man. The possibility of coming back, being that I'm paroling back to my hood. I mean, that's where they got me going to. I ain't got no other place to go to. You know what I'm saying? But I know it's a lot going on out there, and being that that's where I'm finna go back to, then hey, I have to adapt to that environment. Unfortunately, um, it's an environment that is hostile, is gang infested, of course, is where I'm from. And that's something else that I'm gonna have to try to, navigate around until I'm able to get into a better position, a living position, man, rather than stay out there and risk my freedom on coming back to prison. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, the long term goal is to get out and stay out for it as long as I possibly can. But, you know, anything can happen. You don't never know. You know what I'm saying? You saying that you know pretty much what's gonna happen, and you know, you saying that you're who I can, who, if making the wrong decision, who I'm gonna become in the future. You know, You reaching out to me, reaching back to me, you're from the future. You're the future me. You're the outcome of making a bad decision. I get it. I understand it. And that still messes my mind up, being that technology has advanced, so much, you know, in the future that you are able to reach back to me, my elder self. That's crazy. 35 years from my future. That's amazing. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, hey, I don't know what's to come. You say you know what's to come. Hopefully, I make the right decisions in my life. So I don't become that version of me that's interviewing me on this futuristic podcast. Well, I guess it's not futuristic to you or your viewers or nothing, but it's futuristic to me. You know what I mean? However, I don't know, man. I like my mom's always told me, you know what I'm saying? Wish for the best. Well, look for the worst, hope for the best. You know what I'm saying? Look for the worst, hope for the best, man. And that's the predicament that I'm in. So yeah, the long term goal is to stay free, of course, but we don't never know what the future holds. Well, you do, of course, right? Okay, now, yeah, you're currently locked up. You got 4 years, 6 months. You around a whole bunch of people with life sentences. You a young dude. You know what I mean? You young. And you ain't never experienced none of this prison stuff. You ain't never been around all these dudes that got life that's been down a number of years. You ain't never been around these type of people, and they from all walks of life, from different gangs, and you a young gang member, and you're thrust into that environment. We want to know, like you're looking around and you seeing these dudes around you that got all this time. Do you ever think about, have you ever thought about having a life sentence? How would it feel? How would it be? You know what I'm saying? Being that you at the age that you are right now, this is 1991 that you're in. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, what's your perspective on the possibility of you having a life sentence? Yeah, man. It's a lot of dudes, a lot of OGs around me that got life sentences. You know what I'm saying? That has been down 15, 20 years. You know what I'm saying? I look at them and I wondered, like, how are you able to wake up every day in here, knowing that you got all that time, knowing that you got a life sentence, knowing that the possibility and the hope of you ever going home is slim to none. And yet and still, I see a lot of you dudes with life sentences walking around here like normal, everyday function citizens. And if I see these dudes in here walking around like that and carrying themselves the way that they do, I'm only here for 4.5. Well, they gave me 4.5 years, and I'm doing 2, almost 3. You know what I mean? Off of that, and I'm getting back out. These dudes ain't. So sometimes I look at them and I try to place in my mind, what if that was me? What if I had to wake up in here with a life sentence? My young mind, I'm 19 though, trying to take all this in and still not understanding it because I'm not dealing with these dudes that got these life sentences is dealing with mentally. That I believe it changes you and it ages you. It grows you up faster than what's intended for you. You know what I'm saying? With having a life sentence, it changes your perspective on, you know, everyday living in prison. That's what I gather from watching these dudes around me. And yeah, placing myself as a person that has a life sentence is scary, man. And I really don't, that's not a thought, you know what I'm saying, at the age of 19 that I want to have, especially being that I got a release date and I'm getting up out of here in 8 to 9 months. You know what I'm saying? It's a scary thought. I'm not gonna lie, man. That's a good one. That's a scary, deep thought. But it's not a reality that I want for myself to be in nobody's prison with a life sentence. I don't know how I would react if I had a life sentence. I don't know, OG. Hey, well, okay, that's interesting that you look at things like that. You know what I mean? Being that I am your elder self, I know how everything is gonna play out. And I just wish that you knew how smart you are, how talented talented you are. You know, all of these things, these wonderful, beautiful qualities about yourself. Although you're a active gang member, proudly and admittedly, right? These special qualities about yourself is gonna do nothing but as time grow, but become greater. But the cold thing about it, you know, from how you're talking, and well responding, in this interview, you don't see it yet. You can't even see what you will become, but what it would take, you know what I mean, for you to actually understand what your potential is, how deep things go with you, how hard you go, how courageous you are to jump in an arena and actually feel at home at. You feel me? Because the great things that you will profess and put into the atmosphere, into the environment, are things that you had to grow into gradually, mentally, physically, spiritually. But where you're at right now in your life, if you gave yourself a chance to make the correct decisions, you just don't know how far. You just don't know how far you could go, man. But just because you made a couple of wrong decisions that placed you where you're at now and where you eventually end up being many years down the line, which is who I am today. I'm you today. I know it's a trip. I know it's a trip for me too. And like I said, being able to even do this on this platform, be able to actually interview my younger self and give this to the people so they can see and understand, like, it take time for growth for everybody. Ain't nobody born into perfectness of being able to make all the right decisions in their life. You know what I'm saying? Right there, then and there on the spot. Of course, ain't nobody perfect. Everybody make different mistakes in their life. You know what I'm saying? But it's all about how you bounce back from those mistakes and not become those mistakes over and over again. You got to be willing to want to change mentally, physically, spiritually, continue to elevate and not be stagnated. Being stagnated is continuing to function on one level and be tunnel vision and proud to be on that one level with tunnel vision rather than allowing yourself to elevate and grow and become greater and greater each time, each day. You gonna see, young Creep Low, you gonna see. You gonna see, man. You gonna see. And the me of today, right now, that's speaking back to you all the way back to 1991, to the young you, 18, 19-year-old Young Creep, this ain't the end. This is just the point where the stick is going to get handed off to, and that race is going to continue to go. Point blank, period. But let me hand this back over to the Young Creep. I'm going to let him close the show out, you know what I mean? And then, hey, man, this is a proud moment for me, to have this guy on, you know what I mean? So, hey, Young Creep, do your thing, man. And it's a pleasure having you. Hoping we can get you back again, man, with a bigger and brighter and better update. Yeah, Do-Rock Creep, man. Hey, I appreciate, your vote of confidence in who you think that I could become by making the right decisions in my life, man. You know, you, my future self, reaching back to me and being able to interview me like this. It's wonderful being able to give both sides of the coin, the mental mind state of me now as 19 in comparisons to who you are right now, reaching back to me as an elder me, 35 years from my future. That's a trip. But you have this vote of confidence in who you think that I could become once I get back on the streets if I make the right decisions. Or if I don't make the right decisions, you said that I could become who you are right now. Who you are right now, which is a person that's 35 years in my future, reaching back to me. That's deep. But at the same token, your knowledge is something that I know that I'm going to have to grow to. I'm not there yet. I'm still over here gang banging. I'm going to be thrown back into a gang environment. So I know that I'm going to have to gradually grow in to the mental capacity where you're at now. You got to remember, you got 35 years in advance on me. So, of course, you're going to have a ton of knowledge. You know what I'm saying? But I think you reaching back to me is kind of to wake my game up. But how much of it will be woke? I don't know. I don't know what the future holds. But I know what I got to go back to and face. And I ain't never ran from nothing. You know what I'm saying? If I got to graduate from one thing to another, I want to do it the right way. You know what I'm saying? That don't have nothing to do with cheating the game to get ahead or none of that. See, that's what people mess up at. That I understand, that I get. You can't cheat the game. You feel me? So I faced the game head on, man. And, I'm thankful that, I had this opportunity to get onto this platform, man, that you said that I created in the future. That must be great. That must be a great feeling to, be a man that can actually create something of worth and it be that important to you to be able to interview your younger self, me. You feel me? And I'm mind blown by it all, man. But I'm also thankful and I'm humbled by it. I'm humbled at the opportunity, man. So thank you. It was definitely a pleasure, given the perspective of a 19-year-old incarcerated young black gangbanger. You feel me? So I hope people can take from this and learn what they may from it. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully nobody make the mistakes that I've made that got me here, and whatever my future may be, y'all see Big Bro, y'all see Do-Rock Creep, the host of this show, interviewing me, his younger self. You know what I'm saying? With a 35-year gap in between the interview. And that's dope. But yeah, man, thank you all, man. I appreciate the opportunity. And, I hope the future is great. I hope the future is bright, man. Everybody keep me in prayers on that though, and however it turned out, but I know I'm gonna be great. I'm gonna be something. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be something. I believe that my history will be used to help others. You feel me? So thank you all for the opportunity, man. Appreciate it. Hey, man, thank you. Thank you, young Creep Loke, man. It's an absolute pleasure and an honor to be able to dip back to the year of 1991 and be able to interview my young self, the younger version of me. You know what I'm saying? It's an absolute pleasure to be able to do that. And I'm thankful that we was able to get honest answers as well as, you know, profound and to the point questions. You know what I mean? It's only right that, you know, people get the witness, you know, both sides of the spectrum, the mind state and mentality of a young gang member compared to the elder version of that same person, just the elder version of him, 35 years later, with the mind state and mentality that grew from infantry infantry to adulthood, full-blown adulthood. You feel me? I think it's amazing, man. Again, hey, young Creep Loke, man, I appreciate you for, gracing our presence. It was an absolute honor, to be able to deliver this to my people, man. You know what I mean? This idea was pitched to me, by one of the Roundtable family members. Shout out to you. You know who you are, bro. Um, I love the idea, so I said, hey, I'm finna do it, man. I'm finna do it because, again, the youth and everybody else, not just young dudes, but everybody, man, need to see how deep this stuff go. From the time you enter into a situation that you've never been in before to the time you exit and then unfortunately make your way back, and then you age and you age and you age and you age. But as you aging, mentally you're growing, you're elevating. You know what I mean? You're growing from one stage into the other. You're allowing yourself to actually be educated on life and, you know, reach certain goals, accomplish those goals, and then want more, which means you continue to elevate. You continue, you gotta have that hunger. You know what I mean? Especially as a gang member. And then you grow out of that gang stuff, certain aspects of it, especially the way you think. If you stay stuck in that hey, that's gonna be your life forever. You know what I'm saying? But a grown man that's growing every day and elevating in his ways of thinking, especially as the education is everything. Education is everything. Being educated on all levels is food for the mind and for the spirit, for the soul. You're gonna want more when you learn stuff. It's like traveling to a different place that you've never been before. And when you get out there, you see how wonderful and great this place is and how beautiful different areas in the world is that you've never been to. That's what getting educated feel like to me. And the more that I see it and get to inhale it, the more I want of it. So I just constantly chase greatness. Man, if only the young me, the young Creep, seen his full potential at that age when he only had 4 years to do. You feel me? But part of history is from then leading up to now and into the future of what this will become You know what I mean? So y'all see how I'm placing this. This is just the beginning. And then from here, as time go on, that person that I will become is gonna reach back to this guy that you see right now, right here, and interview him. I knew y'all would like that, of course. You feel me? But I'm finna go ahead and get up out of here, man, and wrap this up again, man. Shout out to Young Creep Low, for giving us that interview. It was great, man, to be able to deliver this to the round table, man. I want everybody to take care out there, man, and always remember, man, y'all learn from these things. It ain't to recruit nobody. It ain't to glorify jail, prison, or none of that. It's to discourage people from, making bad decisions that may lead them to a jail or a prison. You feel me? We don't glorify nothing that would damage you, that would risk your freedom or your life. We don't discourage none of that. I mean, we discourage all that. We don't encourage any of that. Excuse me. We don't encourage any of it. Anything that's going to harm somebody or, risk your freedom or any of that stuff. Nah, man, we're not pushing nothing over here like that. Not at this round table. Nah. It's just greatness. That's it. That's all, man. But I'm going to get up out of here. I appreciate y'all again. Learn from this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Inhale it, take it in, but don't put yourself in a position where you gotta repeat any of it. You feel me? Hey man, y'all take care, y'all stay safe. Till the next time we meet at this round table, love all y'all. Triple gang.